You're watching Play, the home of non-stop music and comedy TV.
It was like art rock, but it had real tunes.
It was the most revolutionary thing you could ever imagine.
Some of the greatest modernist art of the 20th century.
Whatever Ian was singing and talking about, he meant it.
Out of the turmoil of 1970s Britain, unknown musical pleasures were revealed to a growing audience by one of the most revered and influential bands that emerged from the punk revolution.
Fusion in her eyes, it says it all. She's lost control.
Their dark, brooding music still marches, alienated, seemingly isolated from the mainstream, yet triumphant across our musical landscape today.
She gave away the secrets of her past and said, I lost control again. And of a voice that told her when and where to act, she said, I've lost control again.
In a way, there was still a wartime spirit. There was no sort of sense of adventure at all. And in that sense, I do feel that it was a post-war period. It did all start in Manchester at the Leicester Free Trade Hall when the Sex Pistols came up. What had happened prior to then is all our generation would be going to the Manchester Free Trade Hall and we would be seeing like bands like Pink Floyd and even Bowie and everything. There seemed to be a distance and it seemed to be very far removed from your own experience and there seemed to be no way you could ever break into that. The Sex Pistols coming up to the Leicester Free Trade Hall, it was in a very small room. They were only about 4 metres away from you. And it was the most revolutionary thing you could ever imagine because it did seem like you suddenly were thrust into the future and you thought, I could do that.
And we don't care!
When punk happened, it was a real revolution. I remember seeing the Buzzcocks and the Sex Pistols, and feeling, realising this was something that was major, very, very important.
There's a weird kind of combination of right time, right place, and a hunger and an enthusiasm. And if you're in your teens at that point, everything seems so desolate and broken down and distant from your own experience. And suddenly you had a chance to make it directly, connect with how you felt and what you wanted to do with it.
Suddenly all the rules were movable and you could experiment, basically. Punk just took the chains and the shackles away from everybody. And you could do whatever you wanted. And some people did stuff that was very extreme. This was Thatcher's Britain. This was a woman in charge of the country, destroying whole communities. The young generation growing up, who actually thought about things, genuinely felt alienated. When punk arrived, it was a vehicle for a lot of musicians to express their anger and rebellion against what was going on, because the country was a bloody awful place.
From some other's womb, just like any other room.
With DIY punk band fever sweeping the country, 2 old Salford school friends, Bernard Sumner and Peter Hook, along with Ian Curtis from Macclesfield, formed a band. Stephen Morris, also a reject from Macclesfield King's Grammar School, later joined the band as the drummer.
Said I so, I'm no longer your own.
Punk used to say, sooner or later someone had to invent a way for it to say, I'm and that was Joy Division.
To the center of the city in the night, waiting for you. To the center of the city in the night, waiting for you.
Initially billed as Stiff Kittens, the band immediately rejected the punk overtones of this first incarnation and renamed themselves Warsaw. they developed an early musical chemistry that heavily encouraged experimentation, which eventually saw them settle on the name Joy Division.
I got the impression that Ian felt that punk was, it was very brash and it was very aggressive and all those things, and he felt that punk had made its statement, and for the first 6 months of, say, the Sex Pistols' career, it was very exciting, it was fantastic and it was valid and all those things, but after about 6 months, all of a sudden there were like thousands and thousands of so-called punk bands, all desperately trying to prove their own cred. And I think Ian particularly wanted to get away from that.
Joy Division's sound kind of came out of various things. It sort of came out of krautrock, as in like Can and Neu particularly. It came out of Pere Ubu. Came out of some key Brian Eno tracks. It was a sort of treated industrial